need a bigger boat.
This is full-blown aquaphobia.
My boy is dead. There's nothing you can do about it.
This is an entire character arc about fear keeping you from moving forward.
Those beaches will be open for this weekend.
He was afraid that he wouldn't measure up.
To your core, to your chromosomes, you just have that fear.
But in Amity, one man can make a difference.
This whole movie's about the process of conquering that, which is not easy.
It's a perfect score, it's a perfect cast, basically a perfect script, and it is directed perfectly.
Smile, you son of a...
Hello, and welcome to Cinema Therapy. I'm Jonathan Decker, licensed therapist who loves movies. This is
Alan Seawright, a professional filmmaker who needs therapy. And today we're joined by a very illustrious guest, host of Charts with Dan, well, I gave away his first name, FSU grad, Great White Shark Attack survivor, valedictorian of the Jaws Studies program, Dan Murrell.
Thank you. Yes, it's easy to be valedictorian of a program that you invent and you're the only member of.
You do film reviews. You're one of my favorite film reviewers. In fact, as of today, you're my favorite film reviewer.
Oh, thank you.
Take that, Jeremy Johns.
Yeah. So love your channel, love your reviews, and super excited to be talking with a fellow Jaws enthusiast. We're going to be talking about the masterpiece that is Jaws. This movie has been explored from a million different directions. We really want to hone in on the psychology of fear and how it leads to inaction, because that is the story of Chief Martin Brody. So, let's do this.
Martin? Martin, you gonna shut down the beaches on your own authority?
Well, what other authority do I need?
Technically, you need a civic ordinance or a resolution by a board of selectmen.
That's just going by the book. We're really a little anxious that you're rushing into something serious here.
Obviously, Dan, we could be talking, for days on end about the Spielberg genius of like, hey, let's shoot this whole thing in a oneer.
And in that jacket.
And in that jacket.
Best jacket in the
Glad to
business.
swim at the beaches, Cape Cod, the Hamptons, Long Island.
That jacket is full of anchors. See how he's going to be holding Brody back?
Oh. Well, I was just thinking about, did they shoot this dynamically because they, it's cool to shoot on on the ferry, or did they put Brody on the water because it weakens him, The water is like his weakness.
Ooh, okay. I want to explore that after. I want to hear this really fast, but I want to explore that. That's a great point.
Tires, fishing boat comes along.
It's happened before.
I don't think you appreciate the gut reaction people have to these things.
Harry, I appreciate it. I'm just reacting to what I was told.
Martin, it's all psychological. You yell barracuda. Everybody says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July.
Whew. I'm already excited to be talking to Dan, because when you say they put him on the water, like the filmmakers put him on the water, but now Brody's in a vulnerable position because, if they were on land, he could put his feet on the ground, he could say, no, we're not doing this. But he's terrified in the water.
Well, and he's playing it subtly. You can see Roy Scheider looking out over the water several different times.
Yeah.
And then looking back and like, oh no, I'm fine. Like,
yeah,
it's very subtle, and there's a lot of other things going on in the scene, so you don't necessarily pick up on it. But like, he's scared of the water.
His wife says that, I think it's later in the movie when they're on their beach, that when they take the ferry to the island, he stays in the car. I mean, this is not a gentle fear of water here, and so he's already kind of confronting his fear, but not to the level that he does, obviously, later in the movie.
No, this is full-blown aquaphobia. Brody is such an everyman, and to back down because you feel unsure is such a relatable thing.
The internet is like an ocean. You never know what's following you just beneath the surface.
This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. With Surfshark, you can protect your identity online.
Like harpooning 2 barrels onto any internet tracking technology.
You can also use Surfshark to make sure that you're not getting charged higher prices for things based on where you live.
Why get charged an entire holiday roast when just a little ladle of chum will do?
You can also use Alternative ID to create an entirely different you online.
You've got a bigger boat.
Surfshark can also help you protect yourself from spam, identity theft, and fishers. You get it, Alan? Fish, because I'm doing Jaws puns now too.
We're all very, very proud.
With different servers in over 100 locations, it'll help you virtually travel the world.
Even coverage on the 7 seas, assuming you can get internet out there.
Surfshark has 24/7 customer service, so they're always there when you need them.
Go to surfshark.com/cinematherapy. Did I do it right? Mm-hmm. Use code cinematherapy at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN.
We almost lost you there for a second, buddy.
I almost powered down, but I saved it. I found the alternative backup.
Smile, you son of
Whoa,
a...
whoa, 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 whoa. Easy. Hey. Surfshark. Surfshark. Surfshark, 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 Surfshark.
This whole scene is one of the best pieces of filmmaking.
Ever.
The tension, the camera work, everything. I love how Spielberg does this.
You don't go in the water at all, do you?
Some bad hat, Harry.
So I was reading that Spielberg deliberately limited the use of red in the movie.
Yeah.
That you almost never see red, so that when the blood happens...
It's more shocking.
But Alex Kittner is wearing a red swimsuit.
Yep.
And you could do a whole other episode on how the camera is used to evoke primal fear in the audience. I
Right.
mean, that's a whole. I mean, it's
yeah.
this is like caveman stuff. Something's grabbing me that I can't see, and it's gonna kill me. The dolly zoom.
The most famous shot in the world.
Now, I noticed something here. Brody doesn't even get in the water.
Yeah, watch
Yeah,
his feet.
runs-
He backs up when the waves get close. He backs up from it.
Yep, as soon as his feet get the tiniest bit
There he
wet,
goes.
he
Yeah,
backs
see, he
out.
takes a step back. Won't touch it.
And what's really powerful about that is I've seen this movie a million times, and I've always kind of like subconsciously registered, but I was actually
You
looking.
just caught that this time.
Yeah, looking for
Yeah.
it this time because I'm watching Brody's arc, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, he wouldn't even get in the water.
No, Roy
To hell
Scheider. Roy Scheider is making a million brilliant choices, and that's the reason this movie's a classic is everyone is doing that, right? This woman who's a local on Martha's Vineyard is a phenomenal actress making choices.
Yeah.
Oof, gosh, that is just chilling.
The limitations, and this is very famous, the fact that Spielberg had limitations with the shark, what he could do. I mean, I think his initial plan was to have the shark jump out and eat Alex Kentner, and it just was not technologically possible. And so he defaulted to this way of like, well, how do I get people afraid without showing them what they're afraid of? And even in that early stage of his career was such a talented filmmaker and instinctual, he knew how to do that. And so I think being a director, you kind of have to be a bit of a therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist yourself, because you got to put yourself in the mind of the audience.
Yeah.
And I think he was just able to put his camera in a place where he tapped into that thing, something that audiences understood. And like I said, I think one of those things is, and it's not just water. If you're out in the dark in the forest, what's your fear? Something that I can't see is going to jump out of the woods and grab me. It's just one of those things that you're just born to your core, to your chromosomes. You just have that fear.
The psychology of Brody here is fascinating to me because he lets fear keep him from doing not only his job, but being the person that he wants to be. Brody's the police chief. It's his job to protect the community, to protect the islanders. And he wanted to do his job, put up the signs, close the beach, but he let himself get pushed around by the mayor. Why? Fear.
Yeah.
And now he's afraid to get in the water. I mean, a boy just got killed.
He runs to the edge of the water, and all the other parents, including his wife,
Yeah.
run into the water and start pulling their kids out, and he stops.
Yeah, because he's terrified. He's terrified of the water, he's terrified of the shark, and this is an entire character arc about fear immobilizing you and keeping you from moving forward. And I look at this, and most of us will never have to face these specific circumstances, but what are the things in your life that you're afraid of so you're not moving?
Yeah.
Who are the people who are pushing you around, or they're not even trying to push you around, but you're scared to speak up, to have a voice, and to say, this is what I want, this is what I need, I'm drawing a boundary. And in that sense, Brody's arc is a great model for the rest of us.
It is. It's these fears are irrational. This whole movie's about the process of conquering that, which is not easy.
Yep.
She's so good in this scene.
Well, and to the point of the human element being the most important thing in this movie.
Chief Brody,
Most movies would have cut this scene.
Yep. It slows things down. Where's the shark? We need more action.
Yeah. Where are we going? We're not moving forward.
that a girl got killed here last week. And you knew it. You knew there was a shark out there. You knew it was dangerous. But you let people go swimming anyway.
And again, this actress, I forget her name, but she had done like sort of local theater.
Things. But still, my boy is dead now. And there's nothing you can do about it. My boy is dead. I wanted you to know that.
So devastating. She knows hitting Brody and telling him what she needs to tell him isn't going to bring her son back. It's not going to change anything.
I'm sorry, Martin. She's wrong.
No, she's not.
But she needs to say it.
Yeah. And that's a crucial scene for Brody. It's so vital to Brody's journey in this movie because he's got to be confronted with the human toll.
With action and plot, you want to move forward all the time, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go back. You don't want to revisit an old set. You don't want to, like, there's a lot of rules about how to make that work. And they all fall apart when it gets to character because characters, because they're people, often take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And a lot of times it's that step back that pushes the character to actually move forward. He wouldn't have made the decisions that he made unless this happened to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This is his moment of, what am I going to do about this? I do have guilt. I am partially at fault because, sure, the mayor convinced me, but I let him. My instinct was to close the beaches. I didn't. And now a boy is dead. And she's right. And one of the hardest things to live with is guilt when you know you could have done something. And not only could you have done something, but you knew better. The best horror films have to explore something about the human condition. They can't just be scares.
No, that's why Halloween, I think, is still a movie that people talk about. There have been 5 million movies that are like Halloween, the original one.
Yep.
And it could easily have been lost in the shuffle. But there's something about the characters in that movie and how they interact with each other and how Laurie Strode is written and how people identify with her that still makes that a movie that people talk about. Again, it's not something that people walking out of Halloween, like you were saying earlier, it's not something they're talking about. It's just something that connects subconsciously with people. And it's why when I talk about in a review of mine of a movie that I don't think is written well or doesn't have good characterization or whatever, they're like, oh, well, who cares? It's just a blank movie. But here's the thing. Your favorite movies probably have all those things. It's just done so well that you don't notice it. And that's why I get annoyed when it's not done.
Exactly.
Sorry, it's a little therapy for me there.
No, I like it.
No, that's same boat, man.
Hey, you guys okay over there?
We're about to see, for me, the absolute scariest shot in the movie
Yes.
and the best Bruce has ever looked.
Bar none.
Yep.
The best shark shot in Jaws and the most
That!
oh
my-
that, and then this next one,
Gosh.
where you just see the top of his that is the scariest shot in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
Oof.
Yeah, I agree. That's the best shot in the whole series.
Yep.
Gosh. So, whenever people say, we don't even see Bruce until Brody's chum in the water, no, we see him here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we see
you
him for
do.
about 2 seconds.
It's used perfectly. Like, you get just enough of it to go, oh my gosh, how big is that shark?
And when he's approaching, like, sideways with the mouth open, he looks like a real shark.
Yeah.
He does. I remember when I was a kid seeing that for the first time, and that was one of the most horrifying things I'd ever seen.
Well, and that's the thing. It's just the right amount of trauma. So,
Yeah.
I love looking out at the ocean like the shark is out there.
Our producer just pointed out to us, the film experts, this is the first time Brody actually steps into the water.
Yeah, well, it's his own kid.
It's his own kid. And he wouldn't go into the water to get his kids before, but Ellen was there. But this time
Ellen
he
will
got
handle
there
it.
first,
Yeah.
and he immediately went in.
But it's also a step in the journey, because look at this. Brody and the mayor are doing something similar. They're kind of like dancing around the issue. Brody wants to attack it head on. He wants to pay Quint to go kill the shark, but the mayor says no, and it's too much money, and we're not going to close the beaches. So Brody on the defensive is, okay, well, we've got people patrolling the waters. We've got people with guns. We've got the tower to keep, we've got all the things, but we're not actually taking the fight to the shark. Why? Because I'm scared.
Yeah.
And so I will face it while still staying in my comfort zone. There's a million applications for this in our real lives, from my relationship is falling apart, but I don't want to face it and I don't want to do the work to actually fix it. So I'm going to do some token work in this direction. Or I have issues with my boss. Or I've got a medical issue that maybe if I just ignore it, it'll go away. I'll just start eating healthier. I don't actually need to get treatment. There's a million things where we can kind of face it, but we're too scared to face it head on. And as we've talked about many times on this show, we only actually change when the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change.
Yeah.
It is now far worse to do nothing. People keep dying. And the town's going to die, the island's going to die if something isn't done about the shark, because it's going to die economically. People are not going to make money, they're not going to make it through the winter.
Right.
So now they have to take the fight to the shark and go out into the ocean.
Well, and that is the point of that perfect zoom shot. What this shot does is it zooms under a bridge, so there's a structure and there's land and there's something you can walk on that's solid, and it's Brody's POV, and he sees his destiny, and his destiny is the water.
Yeah.
I gotta go out there.
Martin. My kids were on that beach too.
We're coming up on, if you're gonna put a fulcrum point on the movie, a pivot point, it's coming up in just a second. And I think it's done purposely. The way it's shot, the sound design, etc. If it's on the end of this clip. Boom.
There it is.
There. That's like literally, okay, we're doing it. This is the adventure starts now, and you go right into, he's meeting with Quint. They're negotiating.
And you immediately
for the boat,
pre-lap Quint's dialogue so you can hear it underneath.
You can split the movie into two distinct parts, and I love the way that they take that. They do the hard cut from the outside, the quick pull of the curtain with the dialogue overlapping. It's the thing that an audience member, you're not sitting there processing that in real time, but that is a filmmaker that knows psychologically you've now indicated to the audience, okay, from here on out, this is a different movie.
And something that strikes me about this scene is, for a long time, Brody let the mayor push him around.
Yeah.
And I think in Brody's head, the mayor was intimidating. The mayor has the power. He's over
He can
my
fire
job.
him.
He can fire me, and he's the one people voted for, and he's got this authority. And then he realizes, I was never really scared of the mayor. This was always about my own insecurity. This was always about my own fear, because the mayor's just a person. And how often is that true? The people that we're intimidated by, the people that we're scared of, when we grow past our fear and insecurity, we look back and we say, how did I ever let that person push me around?
bully me? They're so small.
Yeah.
You know?
Slow ahead.
Oh boy.
I can go slow ahead.
Here we
Come on
go.
down and chump some of this
The reveal doesn't work without that reaction shot.
Nope. You need Brody popping up into frame and then just ramrod straight back.
And here we go.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Wasn't that line improvised? That wasn't in script. That's what I read. I don't think he improvised it in the moment. I think he came up with it on the day, and they said, yes, let's use it.
And then they planned a shot around it, yeah.
Shut off that engine.
And Brody doesn't jump into superhero mode either, which we're gonna see. But
Oh, look how petrified Brody is.
Oh yeah, he's terrified.
Yeah.
As you should be.
Like, he went out on the water, he's doing it. But he's not a superhero, like you said. He's still, there's steps here. Such a great shot.
Yeah.
That's a 20-footer.
25.
And that's a great shot.
Of going,
We're on, a medium close-up of Hooper, and it feels like this thing, and then the pan down to these two just shocked faces, and Quint, this guy who we've established, is the most hard-bitten, tough as nails guy you've ever met. Like, nothing phases this guy. This does. This is a different version of Quint.
If we want to talk about the psychology of cinema, the way to keep an audience engaged in a movie, especially a movie where you're worried if somebody's going to survive, you got to keep them off balance. You got to keep them wondering what's going next. And there's no better way to do that than a big shock moment immediately followed by a huge laugh. Because again, I don't think about it when it happens in a movie, but when you have an audience that you swing them from one emotion like that to another so fast, it puts them off balance and they don't know what's going to come next. Is it a joke? Is it a scare? Is someone going to jump out? Is someone going to...
Yeah.
And that works. You have to know how to do that as a filmmaker, and Spielberg knew how to do it.
Come on, Mark, move! I'm not going out there. Beyond the edge of the barrels. Go to the end of the barrels.
Again, tension, suspense, and humor.
Further out! Why? Go further out! What for? Go to the end of the pulpit, please! What? Will you please go to the end of the pulpit? What for? I need to have something in the foreground to give it some scale! Foreground my ass!
This is Brody's fishing. We just got a couple of stripers. We'll bring them in for dinner. We won't be long. We haven't seen anything yet. Walk around.
I need one of these here! Just Gordon, goddammit! Come here, darling!
And then Brody, and then he's just there's terror
It's like
everywhere
a
he
slapstick
goes.
comedy. This is like a screwball comedy.
And now he goes fetal.
Just take a forward steady.
He crouches down
He
and
gets
goes
to the
fetal.
very center of the boat and shrinks himself down as much as possible.
Line to the first keg. Tie it on.
And what I love about this is it's not just great comedy for the sake of comedy. It's telling you something about Brody. This is not...
Well, and it's building fear.
Yeah.
Like, this is our hero, and he's this afraid.
If he's this afraid, we should be terrified.
Yeah.
And then we see Quint go out exactly where Brody was terrified to go. Like, is the shark gonna breach and eat him?
Yeah.
But how relatable is that? You make a commitment to something because you know it has to be done. You gather up all your courage and you think, okay, maybe I can handle this. It's kind of like if you're going bungee jumping for the first time or skydiving and you're like, okay, I got this. And then you get to the ledge and you say, oh no, I don't got this. Let's just turn the plane around, or, somebody else can do it. I'm done. And Hooper is the friend that just pushes you off the bridge, right? With the bungee cord, just says, no, you're going.
Let me tell you something. All right. Let me tell you something.
Hooper's the one who's trying to talk you into it. Quint is the one who shoves you off.
Quint is the one who shoves you off. That's true. As a kid, I watched Jaws and I thought it was about the shark, and that's what. As an adult, I love Brody because Brody is all of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a decently tough guy. He's the chief of police, but he's terrified when he should be terrified. He's avoidant as hell. And even now he's like, we should go back and get a bigger boat, right? Let's just...
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not going to come out here and kill the shark. I'm just saying we should probably do it from, a cruiser.
Yeah.
At least a destroyer. Something.
Well, it's interesting, the power dynamic, too, because he finally wins over the mayor, and then he's immediately put back into a dynamic where he's making suggestions and he's being overruled. So he's kind of gone from the bottom to the top to the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah, because once he's on the water, it's Quint's world.
Not telling Quint to shoot. He's shooting now.
So, if we're looking at a step-by-step journey, which Spielberg does really well in his character arcs, he just moves people just one little piece at a time. But here's Brody, and he's opening fire,
And he's going down again!
and he's taken action, where he's starting to enjoy not hunting the shark, but that he's not being pushed around by his fear anymore. That I could take action, and it's the same thing with the mayor. The shark is justifiably terrifying. The mayor wasn't, but the journey is the same. I was insecure, I was afraid, and now I'm taking action. How freeing it is, even when you're still afraid of whatever you're facing, that at least you're doing something about it instead of being bossed around by what's going on in here.
I am not going to sit back and let Quint do this. The situation is becoming very clear that we all are going to have to take a part here. And so, when push comes to shove, he does jump into action. I mean, he's not a coward.
Right.
He's afraid of things, but he's not a coward. And that shot, this is the price of being a Jaws superfan. That shot specifically where you're looking at Brody and he's firing the gun. I know too much about the movie because now I always think there's an outtake of like 5 or 6 takes where they're doing that shot and Roy Scheider brings the gun over and it won't fire and he just goes, the gun's jammed. And then it cuts to the next take, and he goes to that shot. He goes, "The gun's jammed." And so now every time I see the movie, I expect him to go, "The gun's jammed." So, you can know too much about your favorite movies, kids. Be careful.
That, frankly, could have added to the tension of the scene, though.
That's true.
So Brody stepping into, like as you said, he's not a coward. He's courageous. And the definition of courage is not fearlessness. It's being terrified out of your mind.
And doing it anyway.
And doing it anyway. And Brody at this point has no choice because, for all he knows, Hooper died because that cage took a beating. And from the boat, it looks like Hooper's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he freaking watches Quint. I have seen some messed up, grisly R-rated stuff in my day, and Quint's death still. It's the shrieking. It's Jaws does this really well. When grown men die in this movie, they don't die like men.
Correct.
They die screaming in a high-pitched terror.
Well, and the fact that Quint sets up his own death by talking about...
Oh, then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming.
Yeah.
And then he does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
The guidelines for what's acceptable in a PG-rated film have certainly evolved over the last 50 years.
Right.
Correct.
Oh. The ship sinking.
Face to face.
And especially what you know about Brody. Like, this is so terrifying, both because, yes, a shark's trying to kill him, but also he's on the open water and the boat's going down.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a shark in the water, like...
This is his greatest fear with a serial killer in it.
Exactly, yes. Exactly. It's like, take your biggest fear and add a monster with teeth that are going to eat you.
Oof.
There you go. Set it for the hero shot.
Show me the tank. Show me the tank.
He's the expert now.
That is such a terrifying...
tank
as it sinks into the water.
Oh. If he misses, he's the shark's. He's like getting lowered into the shark's mouth right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he misses, Bruce doesn't even stop.
And John Williams bringing it.
So good. The tension.
Smile, you son of a...
And the moment of shock from the audience, and then the eruption of cheers with Brody.
He's doing what the crowd's doing.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is Jaws is only pretending to be a horror movie. Like, it definitely hits the spot when it needs to, but it's really an adventure film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because horror movies, at the end, generally
You don't feel
leave...
very good.
Yeah,
No.
This has the most cathartic release. And then to have Brody doing exactly... If I'm Brody, and that's what happens, I'm shrieking a shriek of joy, because...
And then that moment, though, where you see that weight kind of land on him.
This is what makes this a classic instead of a feel-good fist pumper that you forget next week.
It's things like including where Brody is like, of course there's the joy, I just killed the shark and everything else, but then they take the time to show, A, he's realized the enormity of what's just happened. B, he's realized that Quint and, as you mentioned, probably Hooper are both dead. Mm-hmm. C, he might be realizing, oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
I'm a long way from shore, and I don't know how to get home.
Yeah, I saved myself from the shark. Now I'm just going to die in the water.
I'm just going to drown, which he's also afraid of.
But there's that moment of just taking stock of what's going on. And again, it's not an overt thing, but it's there. And I've always appreciated that.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, of course, Hooper surfaces, and as they paddle into shore together, we have this great...
I used to hate the water.
I can't imagine why.
Which is the conclusion of the arc.
It is.
Because he's no longer afraid of the water. Which you would think, after everything he's just been through, he should be even more afraid of the water. And it goes to show that it was never about the water, it was about himself. He was afraid that he wouldn't measure up, that he wouldn't be able to handle it. I mean, there's Alan's heard me talk about this book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. At the core of every human fear is one uniting fear, which is that I can't handle it.
Yep.
Whatever you're afraid of, at the core of that fear is, I can't handle this. It's your own insecurity. It's your own sense that I won't be able to deal. I'm not strong enough. I'm not capable enough. I'm not smart enough. And the reason Brody is no longer afraid of the water is not because the water no longer holds any horrors. Sharks are still there. Drowning is still a possibility. Everything that he was afraid of still exists. but he has conquered himself. He's conquered his fear and insecurity, and he can go out on the water with that confidence of, I can handle it. And this is one of the beautiful things about growth and resilience, is the more things that you handle, the less afraid you are of life.
And I think it goes back to even the conversation he has with Hooper when they're out looking for Ben Gardner's boat, when he talks about why he came to Amity. It's because he was a New York cop. The magnitude of the crime there was you could not handle it. He couldn't handle it. Nobody could handle it. It was too much.
Yeah.
And he came to Amity because one man can make a difference, and that is the ultimate proof that one man can make a difference on Amity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, what a freaking masterpiece.
It's one of the all-time great films. Perfect on every level that it needs to be perfect. It's a perfect score. It's a perfect cast. It's basically a perfect script, and it is directed perfectly.
Jaws in 1975 is the exact same movie that it is today.
Yep.
The shots are in the same place, the score's in the same place, the dialogue's the same, the performances have changed. Unless you're George Lucas, nothing changes about those movies over the years. But you change around it.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why Jaws is my favorite movie is because it's been with me in every phase of my life since I was 8 years old. I love it as much as I did for completely different reasons. That to me is the mark of a great movie, and it's why Jaws is still my favorite movie. It's because every time I go back, sometimes I go back and I don't like a movie as much.
Yeah.
Every time I go back to Jaws, I love it just as much, but for a completely different reason. That's a great movie.
Yeah. I hope that everyone who watched this can take a lesson from Chief Brody and confront the shark in their life. Whatever that shark may be. Even, I will say, if your shark is a real shark, maybe don't confront it. Just stay out of the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good idea.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So until next time.
Well, it's only an island if you look at it from the water.
That makes a lot of sense.
I can do anything. I'm the chief of police.
And watch movies. Thank you to all of our patrons over on Patreon who get extended director's cuts. This one is a beast.
It's very... we went for way too long. People with names like this. Dibby.
Captain Painway.
Yes! Nuclear Nerves.
Octocon.
And Jabs. What a bunch of banger usernames.